buenos días. Tenemos el honor de encontrarnos aquí esta mañana con el conjunto Victory Players, que está compuesto por jóvenes músicos de distintos lugares del mundo. Entre ellos hay educadores y estudiantes de doctorado de distintas universidades. Son parte de un programa que comisiona composiciones de música puertorriqueña o inspirada en Puerto Rico. El mismo se titula The Rich Port, haciendo alusión a la riqueza de nuestra cultura. Entre los compositores se encuentran Cristian Quiñones, Carlos Carrillo y Johanny Navarro, egresada de nuestra Escuela Libre de Música de San Juan. La idea de estas composiciones, ¿verdad?, de este repertorio, es que incluya elementos de la música clásica con elementos de la música típica puertorriqueña. Esa música entonces se graba y ellos la van a llevar a distintos lugares del mundo. Así que están haciendo una labor excelente representando a nuestra cultura. Este grupo se presentará el sábado 14 en el Centro de Bellas Artes a las 7 de la noche y hoy tenemos la oportunidad de tenerlos con nosotros. También tenemos que su manejadora, Ángela Santiago, también es egresada de nuestra Escuela Libre de Música de San Juan. Y en el grupo tenemos representación de distintos lugares también. Por ejemplo, tenemos que la violinista es japonesa. Tenemos que el director es chino y el flautista es el único puertorriqueño en el sexteto. Así que los dejo entonces con el director Tian.
Thank you for the very warm welcome, and of course I'm just going to repeat that you know the work that we do is impossible without our wonderful manager Angela Santiago over there. But first things first, good morning everyone. It is so great to see you here, and it's also so great to be among musicians, because all of us here are musicians. It's so really wonderful. And so when Arte Musical invited us, we wanted to, of course, have the opportunity to meet all of you and to have the opportunity also to hear from you. So today, the format of this is an open rehearsal, and we will have time at the end for questions. Right, so this is one thing that I would like you to think of as you're listening to all this music is see if you can formulate a question that you want to ask one of these fabulous musicians. Right?
Buenos días, el caballero informal que estas piezas que van a tocar en la primera son ensayos y luego van a tocar la pieza completa a través de estos músicos que están aquí detrás de mí y gracias por la oportunidad para estar aquí todos ustedes para demostrarles qué es el talento que yo tienen.
And of course, before we begin, I want to introduce to you all the musicians that are on stage here. And so I'm going to start from the front. On violin is our violinist, Eli Toyoda. Our cellist, Claire Monfredo. Our clarinetist is Eric Schultz. I think you've already met Giovanni Perez. And of course, on percussion, we have Robert Rocheteau. And on piano, we have Nathan Ben-Yehuda. My name is Tien Hui Ng. I'm originally from Singapore, and I'm now based in Massachusetts, and I live in a city called Holyoke. And Holyoke is a very special place because more than 45% of Holyoke is Puerto Rican. And so, this is one of the reasons we are doing this, is because we wanted to learn more from our neighbors about the wonderful music, the culture of everything. So what we are presenting this morning is 3 pieces. The first piece is by Yohani Navarro, who is a graduate of the school here. And it is a piece that you can hear lots of musical references that you will probably be familiar with, because it draws from the music of Puerto Rico. And this is actually the stuff that we have to work on, right? Because this is not necessarily something that we grew up with. So this is something that's very, very special. And then the second piece that we're going to do for you is a piece by Carlos Carrillo. And this will be our first rehearsal on the piece. Because my thought was that it would be very interesting for you to see what it looks like when we actually start learning a piece for the first time, right? All the questions, the interaction with the composer, and so on. And at the end, we would like to play you a very, very short piece by Cristian Quiñones called What My Mother Wrote, which is one of the first pieces we commissioned. So we are going to begin right now with Belén by Yohani Navarro.
That's a lot of...
You can remember?
What country?
Singapore.
Bueno, yo creo que ustedes le entendieron que el caballero, así lo voy a hacer así, él viene de Singapur y él dice que ahí 45% son puertorriqueños, que son nosotros. Y él está aquí porque quiere aprender el talento que tienen los puertorriqueños aquí en Puerto Rico. Van a tocar una pieza, ¿verdad? Y la segunda pieza es una pieza de ensayo que nunca lo han hecho y lo van a hacer aquí, ¿verdad? Para que ustedes mismos escuchen y evalúen, ¿ok? Quiero que ustedes disfruten este momento de su talento y le doy la pista a ellos.
One reminder I want to make was rehearsal end, 2 bars of rehearsal end. Remember, I'm giving those last 4 notes. Yes. Right. Ba 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 ba, ba ba ba, ba 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 ba. Remember? Yeah. That was our favorite spot. Okay. Let's go for the top. I have to say it's so exciting for us also to play for you because we just landed last night. You know, Nathan landed after 12 midnight at 12:30 or something. So this is very early for us. Incredible. So it is my great pleasure to introduce a wonderful composer that I think some of you might have heard of. And if you haven't heard of, you need to look him up because he kind of is amazing. So here is the wonderful Carlos Carrillo with this new piece.
Muy buenos días. ¿Se escucha? Ok, ok, bien.
Sorry, I want to make sure that you can be heard comfortably.
Ok. Bueno, buenos días. Como dijo el maestro En, mi nombre es Carlos Carrillo. Yo soy de aquí de Puerto Rico. Brevemente, yo fui profesor en el Conservatorio de Puerto Rico, pero en estos momentos estoy de profesor en la Universidad de Illinois, en Urbana-Champaign, profesor de teoría y composición. ¿Cuántos compositores hay en la sala en estos momentos? Hay estudiantes de composición, ¿verdad? ¿Hay unos cuantos? Me dijeron. Vaya, aquí están. Ok. Pues. Lo que van a escuchar ahora es el primer ensayo de la pieza que le escribí al grupo. Esto para todo compositor en un momento bien, un poco, a mi estudiante le digo que el primer ensayo no vayan, porque un poquito nervioso, porque yo, por ejemplo, imaginé la música, pero nunca la he escuchado con instrumentos, solamente la vi en el piano y en el papel, o sea que cuando ustedes la escuchen ahora, yo también la estoy escuchando por primera vez, la pieza. Y también los músicos, ellos nunca la han tocado en conjunto. Lo que va a suceder es que van a trabajar la pieza por unos minutos. Algunas cosas van a funcionar, otras cosas no, porque todavía la estamos aprendiendo. Algunas cosas, cuando la escuchen, me daré cuenta de lo que no funciona, lo tendré que cambiar. Es como todo ensayo. Me imagino que cuando ustedes empiezan una pieza, la comienzan a ensayar y hasta que no cuadra la cosa, no va completo, me imagino. ¿Pasa eso? Ok. Pues eso es precisamente lo que va a pasar ahora. Vamos a ensayarla por primera vez. O sea, nunca la hemos visto. La pieza, le voy a decir el título para que sepan, tengan una idea de lo que es. La pieza se llama Y dicen que cuando Guabansec se encoleriza. Suena un poquito extraño el título, ¿verdad? Okay. El título fue escrito en un libro que fue publicado, es el primer libro publicado en este continente. Fue escrito en la República Dominicana por Fray Ramón Pané. O sea que fue el primer libro publicado en todas las Américas. Y él lo escribió cuando estaba viviendo con los taínos. O sea que la primera documentación que tenemos de los taínos dando la información a los españoles. Y probablemente ustedes nunca han escuchado el nombre Guabansec, ¿verdad? Ella era una diosa taína. Y supuestamente en la creencia de los taínos, ella llamaba a otros dioses, uno de ellos llamado Huracán, ¿ya saben lo que es? Para crear las tormentas. Y esa era la creencia de ellos. Como compartimos esa creencia el tipo de los taínos con Puerto Rico, yo usé esto como base para mi pieza. Que la pieza que escucharon al principio de Johanny y la última que van a escuchar son un poquito más festivas y con un poquito más de sabor de Puerto Rico. Mi pieza es en memoria de mi padre, que falleció hace 5 años. Por lo tanto, la pieza no es triste, pero es un memorial y un poquito más calmada y más espiritual de alguna manera. O sea que mi pieza es esta memoria de mi padre, se refiere a este evento, un tipo de poema, y espero que la escuchen, pero como les digo, yo voy a experimentar la pieza por primera vez, ustedes también. Espero que escuchen algo que satisfaga, pero vamos a ver qué pasa con este ensayo, ¿ok? Bueno, pues gracias por estar aquí, espero que disfruten lo que escuchen. Gracias.
So I'm pretty sure that Carlos has already said this, but this is our first contact with the piece. So I'm choosing to start not from the first movement, but from the second. And one of the things that is interesting about this piece also is that Carlos has utilized a technique called scordatura, which is to say that we need to change the tuning of the cello. So I want to give a moment for you to check. Yeah. Okay, so the first thing is, that we have all these fermatas. Basically, they're all kind of individual cells, and we always hold pretty much the last sounding thing. And then there's some continuing stuff that's happening with percussion, right? So we're going to read through this once. You see all the repeats in the second group, which is pasantillas. And we're going to do only one repeat for each one.
Until you cut us off.
I will cut you off. And he's written in a variety of different ways, so that there are. Actually, they probably want to hear. I know. This is always an interesting thing. Oh, I see that we have now feedback. We do that. Oh, sorry. I know, right?
So you had to be flat, yeah?
Yeah.
It occurs to me they want to hear me speaking as I'm talking to the audience. Thank you.
No, I thought was faster than this. Try it and then we'll check the phone. We'll check the phone later. Because remember we have
I see. Okay, can you guys hear me? You can? Okay, great. This is better. And we'll get some translations going. So we're on the second movement right now? Yes. Yes. You're just spinning. Yeah. So we have a great question, of course. This is a technical thing. So, Rob, would you show what you're doing in fast motion? So this is the thing. You think that the conductor is going to completely be in control all the time, but sometimes the music is written in a way that is impossible. So let's see what happens with Rob's part. So this is so symbolic of the hurricane and the shapes of it. And so even in terms of the movement of the players, you see this happening. So Rob was just asking me what to do because it's impossible for him to watch me, right, while this is happening. So it means that if anything, he's creating a shape. We are doing something that's rather independent. Okay, so let's go from the top of number 2. And I'm in a 4 pattern. And I will indicate generally the fermatas are on the second bar, right, with the rests. And I will indicate where cutoffs are. Okay? All right, this is the top of number 2. Yes. There's 2 bars. We're going to start right on 6. Yeah. And we'll make the connection. All of the movements run into each other. And so those are the deliberate joints. Yeah. Here is number 6. 3, 4. Repeat. This is bar 8. And that much. So we just ended at 24. Yeah. No, I could hear you going towards the forte part starting at around 16 and so on. But did I miss this? Did you say we're repeating? We do all the repeats. Yeah. Yeah. That would do it. And Carlos, first impressions, right? Because this is always interesting. The composer hasn't actually heard this with instruments till this point. So.
No, it was great.
You want to speak on the mic?
Sí, lo que escucharon ahora va a tomar más tiempo en el concierto, porque están viendo los gestos, pero cuando hace el sonido tiene que durar más tiempo, la resonancia de la percusión, mientras la instrumentación hace los pasajes, los toques. Nada, continúen.
Okay.
Let's go.
All right. Yeah, we're gonna do this again, and now you know the repeats. And also, you see, I'm actually trying to be very clear with the 4, and there's several fermatas on the 4.
It's twice. It's triple twice.
Yeah.
So yeah, you will need more time, but that's we're gonna.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
As I add more symbols, in terms of pacing, does each harmonic naturally become longer because I have more distance to cover, or should I try and cover more symbols
In the same time.
faster?
No, the time is expanding because you're taking. Basically, it can't have to wait for you.
I see. Okay.
So you can manage the time. Yeah.
Okay, so I can take a lot more time.
Yeah. So basically, it's a management of your time and then going to the next gesture.
Okay.
So you don't try to rush. Try to make that gesture.
Okay, and just so that we try to get that effect, one of the interesting things, of course, is that you're improvising, right? But your method of getting, and just so that everybody knows, because I know you have the full score, basically the gesture is pianissimo going into a louder dynamic, right? So basically, once you are on the louder dynamic, I'll be watching and waiting for you to go back to the subito of the next, right? And then I know where to go. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to see. Okay? Yeah. All right, let's try that, right? I think that's going to be the crucial thing here. Okay, let's go from 6 one more time. All right, bar 6. Everybody else good? Okay. Every time he goes back to the tap. Thank you. Great. So that worked, I think, pretty well because also you're always reverting to the tam-tam, so I can very easily plan. That's home base. Yeah, that's home base for you. So I'll just plan and watch what you're doing there. That effect was getting there.
Yeah, basically, yeah. It is. He's managing the tempo. He should be creative and then go back to you. Is that good? Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Remind me, every time that we start at the beginning, are we going like faster with the sandpaper? over the same papers. Was that the idea before?
I basically, by the time you are at 6, I didn't indicate any changes because we're in the first 4 bars, 6, 7, 8. Just you can do different gestures of crescendo like before, but then you were gonna be dropping out pretty quickly.
Gotcha.
So doing those measures that you're repeating, repeat something at the beginning, just in and out, like before, like you were at the beginning. You have that. You have a.
Yeah, I was just going to chime in, and Carlos was saying to me that remember that the whole piece is the idea of dust to dust, right? And that it begins so quietly and it's all individual grains that are coming out of the sound. By the time we get to the start of the second movement, you're already waves of sound, right? So there are waves that are happening and overlapping. The important thing is that the two of you are overlapping and that the overall shape in the first 6 bars is that of a decrescendo, al niente. Yeah. It can be more, yeah, at the very, very beginning of the first movement. By the time we get to the second movement, you're already in a wave shape.
And then the idea that at the end of the piece, you are doing everything in reverse. It's a mirror. So you will, whatever you do here, you then go.
You disintegrate into grains again. All right, good. I'm just wanting to do a little bit of it just to finish this section, and then I want to go over into Q&A because of time. So let's jump please to bar 26. 26. Right, and 26 is the part where it is actually continuous. So we should be able to now hear the effect of what's happening in Rob's part to the maximum. So the interesting thing, right, this is why I want to do this now, because we have fermatas to give us pace. Effectively, based on what I'm seeing you do, I think you can continue where you are, and I will just be slightly slower than 8th equals 68, and we should be able to catch each other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bars down in the maximum dynamic. It will be here, exactly. Yeah, so we can take our time. So we'll be slower than 68 is my estimation. All right, let's try this. Okay, here we are about 26. And I think also the sforzandos can bite as much as possible because it prepares for the next movement. So that gives you plenty of time, right? So you can be even more expansive from the beginning. Yeah, and it's also interesting, I don't know how intentional with Carlos here is that the lower instruments resonate for just a little bit longer. You almost want the effect of them overlapping, right? All the cymbals.
Yeah, because it was at the end.
Yeah.
It's a large piano, it's huge crescendo, so everything should be from niente to fortissimo.
Yes.
So I mean, you want to try that again from 26?
Yeah.
I mean,
and my suggestion is that because the tam-tam can linger more and then overlap with that, and so that really adds to the sense of crescendo. So in fact, each one of them can go louder, right? Each one of them.
The next one was what we're
Yes.
doing. Okay. Déjame hablar si...
You want the mic?
No sé, ¿me escuchan? Okay. Pero estamos en este momento esto. Y yo estoy escribiendo la pieza y yo también, cuando me hacen preguntas, a veces yo uso la respuesta. Porque yo la escucho por primera vez y yo también me dicen, ¿quieres esto? Y yo, bueno, yo no sé. Y en parte, yo quisiera que ellos descubrieran cosas que yo no pensé y que son chéveres. O sea que lo tengo que hacer ciertas cosas y a veces me preguntan y le digo lo que puedo. O sea que, nuevamente, nunca lo había escuchado. Estamos viendo que estamos en estos momentos. Y vamos a ver qué pasa ahora. Bueno,
26.
So 26, could you try just the instruments without the percussion so you can see the large gesture? And then add it to see, how long it takes.
Sure, yeah. Let's do 26 without percussion. 72. Yeah. Yes. Transition to the next. Okay, got it. So basically the fourth beat of 31 will be quasi fermata before we go into the next movement.
And is that like a send out note, or does that note kind of end, or does it have any taper, or is it more of like a extended out?
Oh, your last note? Yeah. Yeah, basically, if you can delay his F, because basically that will be a signal that you reach the end. So keep going with the position when you hit the F, keep going, and then cut into the next line, basically up, and then we land into the next movement.
The feeling of an upbeat on the release.
Is it off on 4?
Off of 4.
Yeah, it is right, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. Here's 26. And now with Rob. And we're doing 72. Yeah? Yeah, we're waiting because he needs to do a transition. Yeah. Okay. Great. Yes. So I think let's keep the faster tempo. 72 to 76. Great. I think we should go on to questions because of time. 4. Okay. So I hope you got just to get to see what it looks like, and you can see that there's a lot of discussion and between the players, and partly it's also you see that this philosophically is a very different rehearsal method. This is not the maestro of the orchestra with all of the information, right? That everybody actually has a lot of interesting things to ask and to clarify, and that allows it to move a lot faster than if it was just a challenge of what I could imagine. But I would like to turn it over to you now. So if you have any questions for us, I believe somebody has a microphone that's going to go around. So your task was to prepare a question for us. The question can come to me or anybody in the ensemble, right? Okay, so over to you. Questions.
Espero que ustedes hayan cogido los diferentes ensayos que ellos estuvieron haciendo, que ustedes notaron la interrupción de una pieza entre uno y cada uno tenía una pregunta de qué hacer. En este momento lo que quiere saber si hay alguna pregunta. Compañeros, si le pueden hacer la pregunta en inglés, sería agradecido para el caballero lo puede darle las respuestas.
So, hi. This is your first time reading both pieces, right? Yeah. When it comes to sight reading, how hard do y'all practice on sight reading each individual piece?
Primero, hay que dar gracias por las clases de solfeo que tenemos en la Escuela Libre de Música. Eso es un hecho. Yo no estudié aquí, yo estudié en la Libre de Música de Arecibo, pero todo el fundamento rítmico, y los muchachos también, hay que estudiar más los ritmos como tal que escalas. En ocasiones, el problema cuando estamos tratando de leer a primera vista no es que no podemos tocar las notas, es que no entendemos el ritmo. Entonces, si atacamos el ritmo primero, aunque las notas sean a lo loco, por lo menos el ritmo va a estar ahí. Y entonces, por lo menos en mi caso personal, ayuda en cuestión a eso de la primera vista. Nathan, as a pianist, do you have any suggestions or any ideas, personal experience on sight reading?
Yeah, is anybody in here pianist? Who's a pianist? Plays piano. Oh, actually not that many. Okay. Okay, but a decent amount, Yeah. Oh, what?
Oh, sorry.
Well, any of my fellow pianists know that when we have to read music for piano, there's a lot of notes usually in our part. And so oftentimes when we're sight reading, especially if we're playing with a group and we've really never seen the music before, the best thing when there's too many notes, just leave stuff out. So, but there's different ways to do that, right? There's ways to leave stuff out that's really smart, just like I can take some words out of my sentence and you can still understand my point. It's the same thing with music. You can leave certain words out and it still makes sense to the listener, it still makes sense to the other musicians. But if you leave really important words out and just start playing music like that, then nobody really understands what you're doing. So being a good sight reader is basic, especially on the piano, knowing what to select to play and what to leave out, how to kind of summarize a little bit what you need to do. Another really important thing that's super helpful with this group and in general with being a pianist is have fun improvising. So make up sounds, get used to your scales, your chord progressions, understand these things so that when you're playing in a certain style, if you're not entirely sure what's going on the page, if you can't read it fast enough, you can improvise a little with it, you can come up with your own thing that fits within what the music says. A little bit, you know, with license. Some people are laughing at me because I probably do that too much. Okay, goodbye.
No hace falta traducción para eso, ¿verdad? ¿O sí? No, ¿sí? Sí, ok. En esencia, lo que le estaba diciendo a lo último era que como pianista tienes que saber qué notas dejar afuera y qué notas tocar. Cuando a veces son muchas notas en específico como esta música, por lo menos tener los fundamentos ahí para que tenga sentido la oración. Y lo último que estaba diciendo era que a veces si está leyendo a primera vista y tiene un montón de ritmos y un montón de notas que no sabes qué hacer, ponte a improvisar algo que suene más o menos ahí y pues en lo que tienes tiempo para estudiarlo, pero que no pares, no dejes, sino que lo disfrutes y pues haz lo mejor que pueda ahí.
I have another thing to add which kind of relates to what Nathan was saying, because for me as a conductor, what is the purpose of this first sight read through with the instrumentalists, right? Is that, you know, for me, my greatest interest is all the stuff that is not written on the page. So the only way that we could hear it is how it interacts, right? I can imagine it in my head when I'm reading the score, but there's no real way of understanding that. So the purpose of that first moment where everybody is sight reading, from my perspective and from the composer's perspective, I think, is the first opportunity to hear everything together. So, you know, so what do you need to prepare for that sight reading is to actually provide enough information to the rest of the ensemble that we can already start working on the piece and start working on aesthetic ideas and start figuring out what is going to be the most challenging things to do.
Como conductor, una de las cosas importantes que a Tian le gusta hacer es tratar de dar la más información posible, identificar las áreas que van a ser problemáticas para que trate de fluir la cosa, pues, lo más fluido, valga la redundancia, posible. Y nada, y enfocarse en ese encuentro de cómo todo suena la primera vez. Traducción guapa. Tenemos tiempo para una pregunta más. Bueno, corran, eso es una competencia.
Okay. First of all, hi, good morning. As you're all from different cultures, do you find like any musical similarities to your cultures? Well, it's up to you. básicamente la pregunta fue que si, como ellos son de diferentes culturas, si encuentran diferentes similitudes en sus culturas de la música de Puerto Rico.
So I've been thinking about this a lot because, you know, obviously, so I'm originally from Singapore, and Singapore was created in 1965, right? Which is a lot younger than Puerto Rico, which is to say that almost everything that I do is in that sense an intercultural discussion. Say if I'm performing Mozart, it is already an international kind of intercultural discussion. And for me, it's always it's not so much finding the similarities because yes, it makes sense, that's where you're coming from. But, you know, it's always that I'm trying to develop a method of understanding and not making assumptions. So, you know, for example, when I talk to the most obvious example is something in a music piece that says lively. Like recently I did a piece by Marina Lopez called Rosa, which is about the Day of the Dead. And the words she wrote that was loco, right? And what do you mean by loco to a Mexican-American composer? What does loco mean to me as a Singaporean reading that? And one pianist interpreted everything as marcatissimo, and everything was short, but it didn't come across as kind of crazy and lively. So that had to be explained. You know, that was something that you couldn't assume. And it was also interesting because in the ensemble was people from 3 different cultures. And so it's always for me, the most important thing is that there are no assumptions, there are no stupid questions, and you are asking, what is it that is different? And open your ears to the possibility when somebody says it's forte espressivo, that their forte espressivo means a totally different thing from what you're thinking. So that's my take.
Hi everyone, my name is Ellie. I'm from Japan originally. Has anyone been to Japan before in here? Okay. Well, someday come to Osaka. I'll give you all the good spots to go to eat. Okay. Well, I just wanted to say that when I approach a piece of music, I kind of approach it like learning a language because it really is a universal language, as they say, right? So in that way, it's just converting notes into words, kind of like Nathan was saying earlier, and dynamics into expression. So if you kind of approach a piece of music like someone's trying to tell you something, or it's like a scripture of procedures, what to do, right? Like if you're cooking, you go to recipe, right? This is kind of like the recipe you're using. So whether I'm learning music from Japan or from Puerto Rico or wherever it is, it's essentially like learning a language. If you take it that way, it becomes more of a human experience, like you're getting to know someone and then kind of putting that in the best light possible, right? So I know it's kind of generic, but that's kind of how I approach it. If anyone else has ideas.
La traducción muy rapidito es que Eli trata y ahora no se habla ni español ni inglés, voy. Cuando está estudiando música nueva, trata de tratarla como si fuera un idioma, cuestión de que haga sentido, como si estuviese pues aprendiendo así, ya sea música de aquí de Puerto Rico, música de Japón, de donde sea, tratarla como un idioma y que haga sentido, y eso es lo que me acuerdo.
So I want to take the opportunity to say a very big thank you to everybody here at the school for welcoming us here and for you for being such a wonderful audience. Thank you so much. I mean, this is, I think, the end of our session together, but I think most of us are going to be here for a few more minutes. So if you have questions, please feel free to come up and talk to us. I'm going to be floating around. And would you like to translate that, please? Thank you.
Ok, gracias por la Escuela Libre de Música, la audiencia, que es los estudiantes de la Libre de Música. Un aplauso para ustedes. Ellos se sienten bien complacidos. Van a tratar de tocar otra pieza, pero el tiempo está corriendo, eso no van a poder. Pero antes que se vayan ellos, yo les quiero dar gracias al caballero, el maestro de la música. La joven, que tiene unos nombres bien. Gracias por ella. El cello. Excuse me for the names. I'm just going through instruments. El que está tocando el piano, que está ahí escondidito. El de saxofón, que está aquí. El de la percusión, el caballero de acá. Dice que el sabor se queda por lo último, ¿verdad? Tenemos a Giovanni en flauta. Deseo informarles que cada de estos jóvenes que están acá son de diferentes escuelas, o sea, universidades. Y ellos están aquí en un conjunto. Yo le tengo que agradecer esa primera pieza. ¿Se acuerdan de esa primera pieza? Eso para mí fue bien emocional, bien profundo. Esa primera pieza lo compuso este joven. Johanny Navarro. Pero gracias por todos que están aquí. Si quieren quedarse un ratito más, le da bienvenida. Si tiene alguna pregunta que desean hacerle al caballero. Thank you all for being here. And I had told them if they have any question afterwards, they may welcome to stay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.